Picture the most bone-chilling night you've ever experienced. Now imagine that cold intensified 5 times over. That's not a stretch. For the Inuit living in the Arctic, it's part of their normal reality. With temperatures dropping as low as -85 degrees Fahrenheit, conditions that would make most freezers seem warm are just another day. What might feel like a brutal snowstorm to us barely compares to what the Arctic dishes out regularly. In these extreme conditions, cold isn't just uncomfortable, it's a real threat to survival. Most of us rely on central heating, insulated homes, and layers of winter clothing to stay warm. The Inuit, on the other hand, have learned to thrive without any of these modern conveniences. Their survival strategies aren't based on gadgets. They're built on knowledge passed through generations, tested over time, and perfected by necessity. To understand how unforgiving the Arctic truly is, consider this. Fuel can freeze inside a car's tank, and boiling water can turn into ice crystals before it even touches the ground. It's a place where nature doesn't cut corners, and neither can its inhabitants. At the heart of the Inuit survival is one of the smartest shelters ever devised, the igloo. While it might resemble a simple dome made of snow, it's actually an impressively engineered structure. How can something frozen provide warmth? It all comes down to design and material. The blocks of snow aren't randomly piled. They're precisely cut and arranged in a spiral, creating a strong self-locking curve called a catenoid. This shape distributes weight evenly, allowing the igloo to withstand strong winds and heavy snowfall. But the snow itself is also carefully chosen. The Inuit use densely packed snow, not the loose, fluffy kind. This compact snow is filled with minuscule air pockets that act like natural insulation, similar to the vacuum layer in a thermos. It traps heat while keeping the cold at bay. What happens inside the igloo is even more surprising. Body heat alone can raise the internal temperature to around 62 degrees Fahrenheit. No fire, no electric heater, just the efficient use of thermal energy in a small enclosed space. If you've ever stayed in a tiny tent in cold weather, you'll know how quickly it warms up. The same principle applies here. Less space means less heat loss. Even the entrance is cleverly designed. Positioned lower than the main living space, it allows the cold air to sink, keeping the warmth where it matters most. The igloo's rounded structure also helps deflect harsh Arctic winds, reducing exposure and maintaining internal temperature. These well-thought-out features have allowed the Inuit to not only survive, but truly adapt to one of the most extreme climates on Earth. The structure of an igloo is far more sophisticated than simply stacking snow into a dome. Every curve and block placement is intentional, designed to support life in extreme cold. Unlike the homes we're used to, igloos naturally regulate temperature through basic physics. Cold air, being heavier, sinks to the ground, so the entrance of an igloo is purposely built lower than the main living area. This layout ensures that frigid air settles near the entryway, while warmer air rises and stays trapped at the top, creating a surprisingly cozy space for sleeping and resting. The entrance tunnel itself does more than provide access. It acts like an airlock. This prevents blasts of Arctic wind from sweeping directly into the living area. In some larger igloos, there are even distinct rooms, each sectioned off for cooking, resting, or storing gear. Imagine a home carved entirely from snow, yet structured with intentional zones for comfort and function. It's a system that makes efficient use of both space and insulation. However, warmth alone isn't enough. Ventilation plays a critical role in making an igloo safe. That tiny vent hole at the top of the dome. It's not a design flaw. It serves a vital purpose by allowing fresh air to circulate and carbon dioxide to escape. Without it, the igloo could quickly become uninhabitable, trapping exhaled gases and stale air inside. The Inuit have perfected this natural airflow system over generations, creating what today's engineers might refer to as passive ventilation. The warmth inside an igloo also interacts with the structure in a surprising way. As the heat rises, it gently melts the innermost surface of the snow walls. Rather than compromising the structure, this meltwater quickly refreezes into a thin, glossy ice layer that reinforces the walls, filling any minor gaps and improving insulation. In essence, the igloo evolves with the use, getting stronger the longer it's occupied. But size matters. If the ventilation hole is too big, you lose too much warmth. If it's too small, airflow becomes restricted and dangerous. Striking this balance is crucial, and the Inuit have been doing it with precision for centuries. It's a careful dance between warmth, breathability, and structural integrity. Even inside the igloo, maintaining comfort means making smart choices. For example, something as small as lighting a seal oil lamp can significantly raise the internal temperature. In fact, overheating is a real concern inside these snow shelters. With just a few people and a lamp, the temperature can climb quickly, prompting the need to adjust ventilation. That's why the Inuit constantly monitor and adapt their environment, not only to keep warm, but also to stay safe. Clothing plays a major role too. What the Inuit wear inside their shelters is part of a larger system designed to work with the igloo itself. It's not just about piling on heavy garments, it's about strategic layering that manages heat and moisture. Their sleepwear, for instance, isn't made from modern synthetic materials, but from natural skins like caribou and seal, crafted with a purpose. The innermost layer of Inuit clothing is often caribou skin, worn with the fur side facing the body. This draws moisture away from the skin, acting much like advanced moisture-wicking fabric. It's a crucial detail, especially in freezing temperatures where any trapped sweat could turn to ice and put someone at serious risk. The middle layer is all about insulation. Instead of thick, bulky material, the Inuit rely on thin layers that trap air, nature's best insulator. These pockets of air form a buffer against the cold, holding body heat close. Unlike modern materials that lose effectiveness when compressed, natural fur maintains warmth even under pressure. The outermost layer is pure weather defense. Made from seal skin with the fur facing out, this layer is naturally water resistant, shedding ice and snow with ease. It serves the same role as today's high-performance jackets. Only the Inuit version has been refined by generations of survival. I've personally worn waterproof gear that failed in a rainstorm, yet seal skin holds up against Arctic blizzards. Together, this layering system and the thoughtful construction of the igloo form a complete ecosystem for surviving in brutal temperatures. It's not just about endurance, it's about thriving. The Inuit haven't merely adapted to the Arctic, they've turned it into home, mastering their environment in a way that modern technology still strives to match. Every clothing layer worn by the Inuit serves a purpose, and it's fully adjustable. If things get too warm, they simply loosen a layer. If the cold starts to bite, they tighten everything back up. It's like wearing a personalized thermostat, tailored to handle the ever-changing conditions of the Arctic. Long before synthetic insulation or branded outdoor gear existed, the Inuit had already perfected a system rooted entirely in nature. Their sleeping bags are a brilliant example of this. Made from seal skin on the outside and lined with caribou fur on the inside, these sleep systems offer unmatched performance. Seal skin is naturally water-resistant due to its oily composition, shedding moisture more effectively than even top-tier waterproof materials. It stays flexible in frigid temperatures, making it dependable and less prone to cracking or stiffening like some synthetic alternatives. In fact, it becomes more reliable as conditions worsen. But the magic really lies in the caribou fur. Each hair is hollow, forming tiny air chambers that trap body heat and act like natural insulators. A single square inch of this fur can outperform many modern sleeping bag materials in heat retention. These microscopic air pockets work together to keep body warmth in while blocking out the cold air entirely. The sleeping bags are snug yet comfortable, offering enough space to shift without letting warmth escape. The design strikes the perfect balance between insulation and mobility, proving that traditional wisdom, built on centuries of survival, can outperform even today's most advanced gear. The fur lining in Inuit sleeping bags isn't just there for comfort, it's arranged with a purpose. The direction of the fur helps trap warm air close to the body while still allowing moisture to escape, working like a natural one-way valve. This breathability is critical for avoiding dampness, which can quickly turn dangerous in freezing temperatures. These sleeping bags aren't stitched together haphazardly either. Each seam is hand-sewn using sinew, a tough fibrous tissue from animals that expands when it becomes wet. That swelling action seals every stitch, making the seams naturally waterproof without the need for synthetic coatings. I once tried to waterproof my modern tent with high-end sealant, ended up cold and soaked. Meanwhile, the Inuit method, refined over thousands of years, remains far more reliable in harsh environments. The shape of these sleeping bags is another key to their effectiveness. They're built to fit snugly, preventing large air pockets from forming. Those pockets can become cold spots, sapping precious heat. Yet, they still provide enough room to shift and sleep comfortably. Unlike modern synthetic sleeping bags, which often lose their insulating power when compressed, the combination of sealskin and caribou fur retains warmth even under pressure. Together, they offer a balance of flexibility, durability, and thermal insulation that's hard to beat. But sleeping warm in the Arctic takes more than a good sleeping bag. It's also about how you prepare for the night. The Inuit use a technique that requires no batteries or electricity, but delivers consistent warmth for hours: heated stones. These aren't just any rocks. The Inuit select ones known for holding heat the longest. After being heated by fire, they're wrapped in thick furs and placed strategically inside the sleeping area. These stones work like natural heat reservoirs, slowly releasing warmth throughout the night, some holding temperatures of up to 150 degrees Fahrenheit for several hours after being removed from the fire. Placement of these stones is just as intentional as the heating process. A warm stone by your feet is a must to avoid frozen toes, while others are positioned near the body's core for optimal heat distribution. These stones aren't left in one spot. They're rotated during the night to maintain consistent warmth. It's a heat management strategy that functions like a manual heating system, all without any electricity or fancy gadgets. Even more impressive is how this method interacts with the igloo itself. As the warm stones emit heat, they cause a thin layer of snow on the igloo's interior to melt and refreeze. Instead of damaging the structure, this process creates a thin coat of ice that reinforces the walls, enhancing insulation and reducing air leaks. It's a self-improving shelter, one that becomes stronger as it's lived in. This isn't just about individual survival, it's also a community effort. Inuit families often share large igloos, maximizing heat retention through shared body warmth. Raised sleeping platforms, efficient insulation techniques, and coordinated stone heating duties all contribute to a space that can be over 50 degrees Fahrenheit warmer inside than the freezing environment outside. Through deep knowledge, communal living, and ingenious methods, the Inuit have transformed one of the world's most unforgiving climates into a space where warmth is not only achievable, but expertly managed. Imagine borrowing warmth the same way you'd ask a neighbor for a cup of sugar. But instead of baking cookies, you're sharing body heat to survive the night. In the Arctic, this isn't a casual gesture. It can be the difference between comfort and freezing. While heated stones do a great job keeping the igloo warm, there's another source of consistent heat that requires no firewood, no fuel, and no effort at all: the human body. An average adult can emit as much warmth as a small space heater, which means that even in a shelter made entirely of snow, people inside become natural radiators. The Inuit didn't leave this to chance. They developed ways to use body heat efficiently, turning shared spaces into functional heat zones. Instead of spreading out, families slept close together, allowing their body heat to accumulate and circulate within the igloo. It's similar to huddling during a winter blackout. Not the most glamorous setup, but incredibly effective. More people means more heat. And in temperatures that can plunge to minus 85 degrees Fahrenheit, staying warm becomes the top priority, well above personal space concerns. Even the layout inside an igloo was optimized for warmth. Rather than sleeping directly on the frozen ground, where cold air tends to settle, the Inuit used raised platforms. It's the same principle as a bunk bed. The top is always warmer. By lifting the sleeping area, they place themselves in the zone where warm air naturally rises, making the most of their body heat. This small structural choice drastically improves comfort, especially in long, frigid nights. With just a few people and this efficient arrangement, an igloo's interior temperature can rise by as much as 42 degrees Fahrenheit. That's enough to transform a freezing space into a livable one. It's like having a reliable heater that never runs out of energy, never needs repairs, and works quietly all night, powered entirely by human presence. In contrast to modern heating systems that can fail when needed most, this method is dependable as long as people are nearby. But warmth isn't only about layers and shelter, it's also about how the body interacts with the cold, starting with each breath. In sub-zero temperatures, simply inhaling through the mouth can feel like an ice-cold drink hitting your sinuses, a sharp, painful freeze. The Inuit developed a breathing technique to counter this. Instead of breathing through the mouth, they breathe through the nose, which naturally warms the air before it enters the lungs. The nasal passages can heat incoming air by as much as 82 degrees Fahrenheit in less than a second. This method not only protects the lungs from cold injury, but also reduces the risk of dehydration. Breathing too fast in frigid air strips moisture from the body more quickly than most people realize, sometimes even faster than hot desert winds. Today, scientists call this process respiratory heat exchange, and it's widely adopted by cold weather athletes and explorers. But the Inuit were practicing it long before it had a scientific name, proving once again how deeply their knowledge is rooted in survival through instinct and experience. Long before scientists analyzed breathing patterns or thermal regulation, the Inuit were already mastering survival strategies through generations of experience. One of their most powerful techniques involved something as simple as how they breathed. By taking slow, deep breaths, they reduced the volume of icy air entering their lungs. Quick, shallow breathing might help during a jog through the city, but in the Arctic, it's as ineffective as a snowmobile with no fuel. Some Inuit even developed a clever technique, breathing directly into their fur clothing. This created a pocket of warm, humid air around the face, acting like a natural wearable air heater. Even more fascinating is how they turned breath moisture into insulation. The humidity from exhaled breath would freeze in the fur, forming a crust of ice that actually helped trap more warmth. It's like nature's way of reinforcing your clothing with an icy thermal barrier. But breathing wasn't just about staying warm, it was about regulating energy. The Inuit would breathe more quickly but shallowly when moving to avoid overheating. When resting or sleeping, they slowed their breathing to conserve heat and maintain endurance, much like shifting gears to optimize performance in a cold weather vehicle. But heat needs fuel. The human body runs on energy, and in Arctic conditions, that fuel better be dense. The Inuit diet is packed with high-calorie, nutrient-rich food that keeps their internal engines roaring. Whale blubber, for instance, delivers over 9 calories per gram, more than double what a protein bar offers. It might sound excessive by modern dietary standards, but in temperatures cold enough to freeze engine oil, this kind of fat is absolutely essential. Even more interesting is how they time their meals. Some foods are specifically reserved for nighttime because they digest slowly, releasing heat steadily while the person sleeps. It's like fueling a slow-burning fire that keeps going until morning. Traditional meals might include raw fish, seal meat, and dried whale skin coated in blubber. An Arctic version of an energy bar, rich in omega-3 fatty acids and packed with natural vitamins. These nutrients not only fuel the body, but help insulate it from within. The preparation of food also reflects deep knowledge. Rather than trying to bite into rock-hard frozen meat, the Inuit slice it into thin strips, allowing it to thaw more easily and be chewed without damaging teeth. They also discovered that raw fats provide better insulation than cooked ones, a detail that only recently gained recognition in nutritional science. During the coldest parts of the year, Inuit meals could consist of up to 75% fat. That's like eating butter with every dish. But in this case, it's nutrient-dense fat with powerful benefits. Modern nutritionists might raise an eyebrow, but the diet works because it's designed for survival in a place where warmth is currency. Of course, survival goes beyond the physical. It's a mental challenge too. Sleeping in an environment so cold it can freeze metal requires more than just a good diet or proper gear. It demands a strong mindset. The Inuit approach sleep with calm and confidence. They don't lie awake worrying about the cold. That only increases stress and makes you feel colder. Instead, they use tradition, stories, and reassurance to build what could be called psychological insulation. Their bedtime stories aren't just for entertainment. They serve as a way to reduce anxiety and reinforce belief in the safety and warmth of the igloo. One popular tale speaks of a hunter who slept so well in his igloo that he missed the arrival of spring. While the story is meant to be humorous, it builds trust in the shelter's effectiveness, helping both children and adults sleep soundly. Lowering stress this way helps the body retain warmth and promotes deeper rest. So while modern homes rely on heaters, comforters, and electric blankets, the Inuit rely on understanding their bodies, their environment, and the power of centuries-old traditions. From controlled breathing and calorie-dense diets to mental preparedness and ingenious shelter design, they've turned one of Earth's most extreme environments into a place of survival and even comfort. It's proof that the most time-tested solutions often outperform the most high-tech ones. The Inuit have long practiced what today's researchers describe as thermal meditation, a mental discipline that helps the body conserve energy during sleep. Instead of letting their focus linger on the freezing temperatures outside, they train their thoughts to center around the warmth generated from within. This mindset isn't just calming, it actually impacts the body. By concentrating on inner heat, they lower their heart rate and reduce metabolic activity by up to 10%. The result is less oxygen consumption, minimized shivering, and slower heat loss. In an environment where every bit of warmth is precious, this form of mental control is as vital as any physical survival skill. But surviving the Arctic's harshest conditions isn't something the Inuit do alone. Their way of life is built on community collaboration. When temperatures plunge to deadly lows, families cluster together in shared igloos, forming tight sleeping groups that boost warmth through collective body heat. These thermal clusters can raise interior temperatures to around 55 degrees Fahrenheit without using a single match or drop of fuel. It's a human-powered heating system made possible by cooperation. Resource sharing is also fundamental. The thickest and warmest sealskin sleeping bags are given to elders or exhausted hunters who need recovery the most. Others take charge of specific roles, like crafting perfectly shaped snow blocks or assembling sleeping platforms at the optimal height to hold warm air. Some individuals become experts at reading snow conditions to find the safest, most insulated locations for building igloos. These aren't random roles. They're examples of how experience shapes survival, like Arctic engineers perfecting their blueprint. Travel, too, is guided by collective planning. In blizzards or whiteouts, well-marked emergency routes and shelters provide lifelines across the icy landscape. These emergency shelters aren't thrown together either. They include raised sleeping areas and stored supplies. ready to save a life at any moment. Think of them as remote Arctic inns, where shelter is never denied to someone in need. And even in these intense conditions, humor remains essential. One popular tale tells of a man whose snoring was so disruptive, his family sent him to sleep alone, until they realized they missed the extra body heat he provided. That moment of laughter reflects a bigger truth. In a world where every degree of warmth matters, joy and shared stories become powerful survival tools. In the end, the Inuits' most powerful defense against the cold isn't any one technique. It's the strength of a united community, where survival is always a shared effort.